Welcome to How I Beat WDDTY's new podcast series, sharing real stories of healing, recovery, and resilience. In each episode, hear from our readers who've overcome frustrating and often life-changing health challenges, exploring the treatments, lifestyle changes, and alternative approaches that help them reclaim their health. Lauren explains how she overcame arthritis and is now a fit and healthy mum of one who's able to work, exercise, and live her life free of pain.
My name is Lauren Vakneen. I was diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis just before my second birthday, the result of a vaccine trigger a few months before that. My parents didn't know what they were going to do, but the only option that the doctors were giving at the time were steroids, and although they didn't know what the alternatives were, they knew that they didn't want to give me steroids. So my mum took herself to the library and emerged 3 days later having decided on homeopathy. So we went to a homeopath, and first we saw a homeopathic dietitian. And over the years I was treated with homeopathy, and they kept declining the steroids, and doctors kept telling my mum she was a bad mother and that my joints were going to be damaged and all these other very scary things. The homeopathy was amazing, kept my immune system strong. My condition was an autoimmune disease, so my immune system was obviously compromised, and homeopathy was definitely what kept it strong. I was growing at a normal rate, all those things. It didn't cure me. We hadn't yet found the missing piece. We didn't realise that diet played such a big part. It was the 80s, that we didn't have, the internet for all the information, but the homeopathy was keeping me healthier than I would have been. I was part of a group, hydrotherapy group with other children with the same condition, and as we grew up, we could see the visible difference between me and them, in that they were not growing as well. They were starting to get joint deformities, and some of them were having all sorts of operations, and as we were kind of getting to puberty age, a lot of the girls were not getting their periods, and with me, although the arthritis was still there, and my childhood was very up and down, I had flare-ups, there were lots of things in my childhood I couldn't do that I wanted to. The other stuff was kind of going at a normal pace. I was growing. My general health was very good. So, my childhood was pretty up and down, and there were hospital stays, and there were flare-ups where I was on crutches, and there were times where I had to have steroid injections into my knees and into my eye because I had an associated eye condition, and so it was kind of always in limbo, never fully out of the way. And then my teenage years were brilliant. The homeopathy had kind of kept it on an even keel, and I managed to really enjoy my high school years. Then I left high school to go to performing arts school, and I had a huge flare-up, and it was affecting the eye and the joints. At this point, from the age of 2, I was only the arthritis only affected 4 joints, the knees and the ankles, and they swelled up really badly, and the inflammation in the eye had caused cataracts to grow one over the other. So I was losing my sight very rapidly, and the cataracts, because there were so many of them, were causing the pressure in my eye to drop. So my ophthalmologist and my rheumatologist were desperate for me to go on a drug, a chemo-based drug, and at the time I was 17, and I kind of thought I knew better, and I made the decision, much to my parents' dismay, to start this drug. I started the drug at the age of 17 with arthritis in only 4 joints and very good general health. By the end of the 10 months of taking this drug, the arthritis had spread to every joint in the body. I was losing my hair, and it damaged my liver. And I realised that this was not the way to go, and it was not the thing that was going to help the inflammation. It had the reverse effect. And went back to the rheumatologist, wheeled in by my mum in a wheelchair because I couldn't walk by this point. I was 18 years old. And the doctor, who had been seeing me since I was 4 years old, didn't even bat an eyelid that I was in a wheelchair, and didn't take it very seriously at all. She told me that the drug works for 70% of people, and for 30% it didn't work for. There was no more kind of understanding of it other than it works for 70%, it doesn't work for the other 30%. What they didn't take into account was lots of things that I learned years later, like gene mutations and a whole range of other things, constitutional makeups that will determine why one person's body will be able to detoxify these sort of drugs easier, and why one person's body won't be able to handle it very well. I came off the drug, and I tried to find ways to get myself better. We found a treatment in Israel called IPEC therapy, which is integrated physical emotional clearing, which basically takes 7 different types of holistic therapies and integrates them all into one. That worked really well for me. Within a few months I started feeling a lot better. The inflammation was going down. I had more mobility back. I got out of the wheelchair. A few months after that I started riding a bike. Things were really improving. The problem was that I didn't know at the time how to use this in kind of a maintenance for my whole life. I was too young and immature, and I'd lost out on my university years and all these things that I should have been doing at 18, 19, 20 when I was trying to get better, and I kind of wanted that time back. So I was partying and I wasn't watching what I was eating, and so obviously all the symptoms came back. And it was after that that I realised that this was a lifestyle choice, and that there wasn't one treatment or one doctor that was going to make me better. I had to take that on board myself and take responsibility for my own health. So I started learning and teaching myself about nutrition, about the body, about medications, about the pharmaceutical industry, and about homeopathy. Delved more into all the different holistic therapies, and started taking nutrition very seriously. Started learning also about everything that we do in our lives, not just what we put in our bodies, but what we put on our bodies. And just as important, the things we don't put in our bodies. And I started realising that our exposure to toxicity needed a huge reduction, and that was what was going to help me. And it was a very long process and a slow process, and I started with the foods I ate. I started eating all organic, cut out gluten, dairy and sugar. Started drinking purified water. And then it moved on to personal care products, cleaning products, and it just kind of spiraled from there, and it became a whole lifestyle. And only when I really focused on that and had an amazing homeopath and naturopath who also did kinesiology and nutrition and supplements and all these sorts of things, and we checked for deficiencies and checking the bloods all the time for toxicity levels and what deficiencies I may have had. And I learned about a gene mutation called MTHFR that meant that my body couldn't detoxify properly. It was taking all of this into account, and only when we did that and it became a complete integrated approach or integrative approach did it really help me go into remission. And that was when I finally went into remission, and thankfully I've been in remission ever since. I did have a flare-up after having my son, the exhaustion hormones, and what that reminded me was that I have an autoimmune condition that is dormant in my body. No one person or one treatment is ever going to fully get rid of it. It can be triggered at any point by lifestyle or toxicity, and it's up to me to take it into my own hands, to work hard, to continue with everything I do, and ensure that I live my life in as natural and healthy a way as possible, reducing my exposure to toxicity and living naturally. And so it took 6 months after having my son, but again, I got myself back into remission, and it was a great reminder for me that we need to take our healthcare into our own hands, and only then can we fully be healthy.